The ground vibrates through your boots before the sound arrives. A low tectonic groan that doesn't come from the sky or the earth, but from somewhere between, somewhere inside the glacier itself, like 600 meters of ice just exhaled. Then the ridgeline above Jökulhlaup splits open, and a column of black steam punches through the white, rising faster than anything that heavy should rise, and the air hits your face warm and wet and tasting of sulfur and copper. The river below you, the one that was running full 30 seconds ago, is empty. The riverbed is dry. And you know exactly what that means. 14 minutes before. The morning is unreasonably still. No wind. The kind of Icelandic morning that happens maybe 9 days a year, where the air forgets it's supposed to be moving and the silence over the valley is so complete, you can hear meltwater clicking through basalt channels 400 meters below your position. You're standing on the eastern ridge trail, above the Vatnajökull corridor, GPS unit in one hand, trail condition form in the other, checking anchor bolts on the chain section where the path narrows over the drop. Third season doing this. Wednesday morning. You're supposed to file the trail assessment by noon, then drive back to Vic for a shift briefing about the weekend forecast. Nothing on the seismic alert page. You checked it 40 minutes ago at the trailhead, where the signal still reaches, and the color-coded bar for Katla was green. Jökull, green. You remember this specifically because you almost didn't check. The sky was so clean, so absurdly calm it felt like testing a fire alarm during a rainstorm. The coffee in your thermos is still warm. You poured it at the hut before starting the traverse, and the thermos is the good one. The one your daughter gave you last Christmas with the dented cap she apologized for. You told her the dent made it yours. It's in the left side pocket of your pack right now, and you can feel its weight when you lean over the bolt anchors. A small, warm pressure against your hip. The world is ordinary and manageable and exactly the size as it should be. The group appears on the valley floor around 8:40. You see them from above, 12 figures in bright jackets, the unmistakable palette of rented outdoor gear, moving in the loose, uneven spacing of people who aren't used to walking on lava rock. A guide is with them. You can tell because one figure walks 15 meters ahead and keeps stopping to wait, hands on hips. The posture of someone who has done this walk 200 times and is performing patience. You've seen groups like this every week since May. They follow the river trail to the glacier tongue overlook, take photographs of the ice, eat lunch on the flat rocks near the bridge, walk back. The bridge is a narrow steel and wood span across the glacial river, rated for foot traffic only, bolted into basalt on both sides, about 3 meters above normal water level. You helped inspect it in April. It was solid. The guide down there, you can't see a face, but the jacket is orange. The kind of orange that search and rescue volunteers learn to love because it's the only color that stays visible in fog, rain, ash, and twilight. Stops near the riverbank and crouches. You know that posture, too. Showing the tourists how cold the water is. Probably dipping a hand in. Probably saying something about how this water was ice 9 hours ago. One of the tourists, shorter than the others, wearing a red beanie that keeps slipping down, is sitting on a rock slightly apart from the group. Not photographing the glacier. Reading something. A book, maybe. In the middle of all that, someone brought a book to the edge of a glacier. You notice it the way you notice small human things that don't fit their surroundings, the way they lodge in your attention without reason, without weight. Then the birds leave. Not gradually. Not in the way birds normally move from one thermal to another. Every ptarmigan on the eastern ridge lifts off the ground simultaneously, as if the ground itself told them to go. 3 seasons in the highlands. You've never seen that. You stand up from the anchor bolt and look north toward the glacier, and you see nothing wrong. The ice is white, the sky is blue. The steam vents along the eastern margin are doing what they always do. But the birds are gone, and the air. You can't name it yet, but the air is different. Heavier, like the barometric pressure dropped 5 millibars in 10 seconds. Your ears haven't popped, but they feel like they're about to. You look at the river. The water level is the same, the color's the same, and then on night that pale, chalky gray of glacial runoff carrying suspended volcanic sediment. But the sound has changed. The pitch of the current is lower, slower. You've listened to this river 5 days a week for 3 months. It just dropped half a register. Like a machine winding down. You reach for your radio, no signal, not static, nothing. The repeater in the Vic Tower either lost power or something's jamming it. And you know what causes like electromagnetic interference in this part of Iceland? It isn't weather. Something is happening under the glacier. Something big enough to disrupt radio frequency propagation across the entire valley, which means something is superheating groundwater through hundreds of meters of rock, which means magma found a new conduit, which means the 600 meters of ice sitting on top of Kala's western caldera is no longer sitting on anything solid. You know this the way a mechanic knows an engine sound is wrong before they open the hood. Not because you studied volcanology. You didn't. Because you sat through the search and rescue briefings every October for 3 years, and the briefing on jökulhlaup protocol was always the longest one. The instructor always said the same thing. The first sign is not the eruption. The first sign is the water. When a subglacial eruption begins, the initial melt doesn't come over the glacier. It comes under it, channeling through ice tunnels, pooling in subglacial lakes, building hydraulic pressure against ice dams that have held for decades. The flood doesn't start when the dam breaks. The dam breaking is the flood, and the river going quiet. That's what happens in the minutes before the subglacial lake overwhelms the ice barrier. The meltwater feeding the river is being rerouted, redirected into the growing reservoir beneath the glacier, stolen from the normal channels to feed whatever is building in the dark. The 1918 Katla eruption. The jökulhlaup extended Iceland's southern coastline by 5 kilometers in a single day. Peak discharge. They estimated over 300,000 cubic meters per second, roughly 3 times the average flow of the Amazon. The flood carried icebergs the size of apartment buildings. You clip the useless radio back to your chest harness. Check the time. 8:51. Look at the valley floor. 12 tourists in an orange jacket, 300 meters below you, standing next to a river that's about to become something else entirely. The thermos presses against your hip. The dented cap. The weight of it. You count the paces to the shelter. You've walked this trail so many times the number lives in your legs, not your head. 420 steps at pace. 9 minutes. The shelter sits at 190 meters elevation, reinforced concrete, built specifically for this. Thick enough walls, high enough ground. It will hold. You count the paces to the valley floor. The descent trail switchbacks 3 times through loose scree. At a run, 7 minutes. Maybe 6 if you don't fall. You'd arrive at the group's position with no shelter, no high ground within sprinting distance, and 12 people who have never heard the word jökulhlaup. You'd have to make them run, uphill on terrain they've never seen, in boots that aren't broken in, toward a secondary ridgeline that might be high enough. Might. You don't know the exact elevation of that ridgeline. You've never needed to. You stand on the trail with your hand on the radio that doesn't work, and you look up at the shelter and then down at the 12 bright jackets. The math is simple. The math is impossible. The ground shakes. Not the way it shook 6 months ago during the small swarm near Grindavik. Not a rattle, not a tremor. A single sustained convulsion that moves through the rock like a wave through a rope. You watch the scree field below the trail ripple. Actually ripple. Stones lifting and resettling in a pattern that moves north to south, glacier toward sea. The sound that comes with it isn't a crack or a boom. It's something deeper, something your chest cavity registers before your ears do. A frequency so low it feels like your organs are being rearranged. The glacier splits. You see it happen. A black line opens across the white face of Jökull east to west, 300 meters wide, and from inside that line comes the column of steam. Black, superheated, rising with a speed that makes the scale incomprehensible because there's nothing next to it for reference. Not until a piece of ice the size of a bus tumbles past the column and you realize how fast it's rising compared to something falling. The falling thing is falling at the speed things fall. The column is rising faster than gravity pulls, which means the heat beneath it is beyond anything you have a frame for. Then the sound of the river returns. But it's not the river's sound. It's lower, wider. A roar with texture. You can hear a rock in it, ice in it, the grinding of solid objects being pulverized inside a volume of water that should not exist. You look down, and the riverbed that was dry 30 seconds ago is filling, not with water, with something darker, thicker, a slurry of meltwater and volcanic sediment and shattered ice moving with a speed that's wrong for liquid. It looks more like a solid being poured than a river being born. And the bridge disappears. Not dramatically. It simply isn't there between 1 second and the next, as if the flood absorbed it without noticing. You look at the group. They're still on the bank. Some of them are filming. The person in the red beanie is standing now, the book gone, staring upriver with the posture of someone who knows something is wrong but doesn't have the framework to know what. The guide in the orange jacket is moving. You can see the body language shift from performance to alarm. Arms out, hurting, trying to move the group back from the bank. They're moving the wrong direction, south, toward the coastal flats, toward lower ground. The guide doesn't know. The guide is a hiking guide, not a volcanologist, not a rescue warden, and the guide is doing what instinct says. Move away from the visible danger, move downstream, move toward the road. The road sits at 40 meters elevation. The flood will be at 40 meters in less than 6 minutes. You have the knowledge. You're the only person in this valley who understands that the flood will not follow the riverbed. A jökulhlaup at this magnitude overflows every channel, fills every depression, turns the entire valley floor into a moving lake of debris-laden water 4 to 8 meters deep. In the south is death. The only survivable direction is east. Uphill toward the secondary ridgeline, toward ground that might clear 150 meters. 9 minutes to the shelter. Directly behind you, uphill, a trail you know by feel. 7 minutes to the group. Downhill, into the flood path. No guarantee the ridgeline is high enough. No guarantee you can make them understand. No guarantee you can outrun what's coming even if they listen. You look up. The shelter door is green. You painted it yourself in April. You look down. The person in the red beanie has stopped moving, standing still while the others retreat south, staring up at the ridge, staring you realize at you. They can see you. They can see a human figure on the high trail, and they're looking at you the way a person looks at someone who might know what to do. The slurry in the riverbed is rising. You can see it climbing the bank where they were standing 3 minutes ago. The sound is getting louder, not gradually. Each second carrying more noise than the last, as if the flood is recruiting the valley itself into its voice. The orange jacket is still leading them south. The red beanie is still looking at you. You drop your pack. The thermos hits the ground with the dented cap facing up. You see it. You leave it. Your legs are already moving. The scree is loose. The first switchback takes your feet out and you slide 4 meters on your hip, palms shredding against basalt gravel, and you don't stop. You push off the slide and keep descending. Second switchback. The sound from the glacier is a wall now. Not a sound. A wall. A physical boundary of noise that your eardrums flatten against. Third switchback. You can see their faces. You are screaming. The Icelandic word first. Hlaup. Hlaup. Then English, because the jackets are tourist colors, because the odds are English. You're pointing east. Up. Up. The ridge. You're pointing at the ridge and screaming the only word that matters. The orange jacket stops. Turns. Sees you coming down the slope at a dead sprint. Arms pointing east. Face twisted into something that doesn't need translation. The orange jacket hesitates. 1 second. 2. The person in the red beanie moves first. They grab the arm of the person next to them and pull east. No questions, no hesitation. They saw you on the ridge. They saw you choose to come down. That was enough. The group fractures. 7 follow the red beanie east toward the slope. 5 stay with the orange jacket, frozen, looking south where the guide was leading them, looking east where the stranger in the red beanie is scrambling uphill, looking at you, looking at each other. You reach the valley floor. Your boots hit flat ground. The water is 60 meters behind you and closing. You run to the 5. You grab the nearest person by the shoulders. You turn them east. You push. They run. The orange jacket runs. You are last. The water reaches the bank where they were standing. You're 40 meters east and climbing. The slope is steep. Your legs are burning from the descent, and now you're asking them to climb. The person ahead of you stumbles. Older, slower, breathing in gasps that sound like tearing fabric. You put your hand on their back. You push. Not gently. You push with everything, because gentle is a luxury that exists on the other side of this. The water enters the valley floor. Of course, it's not a wave. It's a spreading, thickening presence, black and gray and carrying chunks of ice that grind against each other with a sound like buildings being dragged. It fills the space where the trail was. It fills the space where the bridge was. It moves with a patience that is worse than speed. Like it knows it doesn't have to rush, like it knows the valley has nowhere to send it but here. You climb, 100 meters elevation, 110, 120. The water climbs with you, 100, 110. You can see the ridgeline above, 30 vertical meters, the person ahead of you falls. You pull them up. The red beanie is above you, already on the ridge, turning back, reaching a hand down toward the next climber. 130. The waters are at 115 and slowing. The gradient is fighting it now. The slope's steep enough that the flood is losing momentum, spreading laterally instead of climbing. You can see the leading edge begin to flatten, begin to decelerate, begin to look less like something chasing you and more like something arriving at the boundary of its reach. 140. You stop. Everyone stops. The water stops at 122, 18 meters below your feet. You are standing on volcanic rock with 12 strangers in an orange jacket, and below you the entire valley is gone. Not damaged. Gone. Replaced by a moving gray-black surface carrying icebergs and boulders and pieces of things that used to be fixed to the earth. The sound is enormous. The air is warm and tastes of sulfur. Steam rises from the flood surface in columns that catch the light. No one speaks. Breathing is the only human sound on the ridge. 12 different rhythms, none of them steady. The person you pushed is sitting on the rock with their hands on their knees, staring at the flood with an expression that has gone past fear into something quieter. The orange jacket is standing apart, looking south, toward you where the road was, toward you where the coast was, and you can see the guide's hands opening and closing at their sides. Opening and closing? You understand that gesture because you've made it yourself. The hands trying to hold something that isn't there anymore. The person in the red beanie is sitting next to you, close, not speaking. The book is gone. It lost in the climb, dropped somewhere on the scree without noticing. They're holding a small flat stone they must have picked up during the ascent, turning it over in their fingers again and again. The way a person handles a rosary or a coin or anything small enough to prove their hands still work, that the body still responds to decisions, that agency hasn't been entirely revoked by the world. You look down at the flood. 18 meters of elevation between you and the surface. No radio, no pack, no thermos with the dented cap. Somewhere below that black water, the trail you maintained for 3 seasons is being rewritten by a force that doesn't know it existed. The steam keeps rising. The glacier keeps splitting. The flood won't recede for days. You chose to go down. You chose the 7 minutes instead of the 9. You're alive, and 12 other people are alive, and you're all stranded on a ridge with no communication, no supplies, and no way to know if anyone is coming. The person in the red beanie turns the stone over one more time and sets it down on the rock between you, carefully, as if placing it somewhere specific matters. You don't know if you came down because you believed you could save them. You don't know if the math was ever real. If you actually calculated the elevation of that ridgeline, or if you just needed the math to feel like a reason. You don't know if what brought you down the scree was courage, or something older and less noble. The inability to be the person on the high ground who watched. The stone sits on the rock between you. The flood roars below. The sky above the glacier is black, and the sky above you is still blue, and the line between them is sharp and exact, and you're on one side of it, and you don't know which.